every single. He could have gotten tetanus. Hello. Welcome back to Road Tripping with Rachel. I'm Rachel. Thank you so much for joining me on this road trip. So, if you've been following along, you know that I've moved. So, we're in a totally new space. So, if you've been following the channel, you'll know that I've given you a brief glimpse of what the new apartment looks like. I'm rooming with my younger cousin. We were able to find this great townhouse together, and both of us are really excited. We've already had someone over. I am super excited, and now that I have moved, I'm actually more central to a lot of the places that I have been wanting to visit and actually take you on adventures on, because I love a good road trip. But that's not what we're talking about today. Today we are picking up with our Bible study that we've been doing. So if you're new to the channel, go on ahead and look through my videos. If you look under education, you're gonna find a series of videos that are all about the Gospel of John. So we have made it through John 12, and John chapter 12 was actually a 3-part series that I did. Now we are on John chapter 13, and actually I'm gonna be later filming John chapter 14, because you're gonna get a twofer the week that this airs, because I missed an upload the week that I actually moved, because I was started a new job, I was trying to unpack, it was a whole lot, and that was just how it worked. After 13, everyone's favorite chapter, we're gonna talk about foot washing. So now, primarily most of these videos that I film, although you can definitely use them in order to do your own Bible study, and it gives you just some food for thought. That's literally what this is. It's me as I read through, doing my own Bible study, and trying to I'm just talking about the things that I get out of it, or the things that I notice, and I throw out some questions and things like that would work for if you are a small group leader, or if you just really want to kind of think about some of these things that I bring up. Always feel free to talk about them in the comments. I do read those and I want to be able to have a discussion with the people who watch these videos. So foot washing is kind of one of those hot button topics, but I think it is worth discussing, because it's in scripture, which means on some level it's important. So as we're working our way through John chapter 13, they're in a house, they've made it upstairs, we are now discussing the fact that, one, their feet weren't clean whenever they showed up. That's a whole different issue. But Jesus does something that would have been considered very demeaning. And he goes and he begins to use this as a way to teach his disciples that are with him up there in this room. And ultimately, there's 2 big sections here. You have where his interaction with Peter, and then why he does this. So it's kind of a 2-part deal that he's teaching them. And John does this on purpose, one, because Peter tends to stick his foot in his mouth, but also because it was a lesson that I think they needed to hear when John is writing this gospel. Baptism in some way, shape, or form has been really it's part of an initiation into a group. So it was an outward symbol that you were now considered a part of this group. Likewise, baptism was an outward sign that you had joined with the Church of Jesus Christ. So as we get in here, and we're coming in with that foundational knowledge of this is what baptism means to us now and what it would have meant then, we see where Peter initially was no, you're not going to touch me. And then Jesus, you will not wash my feet. I won't let you do it. And then Jesus tells him, if I don't, then you have no part with me. Now, this is not to say that baptism is what saves you. It absolutely does not. Likewise, I wear a ring. It's on my right hand, in case anyone questions it. I don't wear it on my left hand because I'm not married. But if I were to take my ring and move it to my left hand, am I suddenly married? No, I'm not. For every single. If you wanted to take it in the baptism route, this is now just me personally. I think this is a discussion. very clearly, this is a discussion I think you should have with your small group. And just kind of gauge like where people are at. Obviously, if you are leading a small group, you're probably like with a church, and your church probably has a set statement on where they fall within baptism. So if you're nervous about bringing it up, I would say like have a conversation with your pastor or teaching elder or whoever. But I think, this is me personally, I think immersion is the preferred method of baptism, but I do not think it negates anybody who chose to be sprinkled or like was poured, had water poured over them. As long as they see it is the outward symbol of their commitment. I believe you in believers' baptism, but I think the method of baptism can be discussed. That's where I fall with it. About faith, though, I think it's important that we recognize that just if I wash your feet, then all of you is clean. If I wash your hand, then all of you is clean. That on the topic of faith, I think we need to remember that you're never just a little bit redeemed. You're never just a smidgen redeemed. Anyway, I was having some technical difficulties. I apologize for that. But the point is that once you are saved, and it's a true conversion, like God has done this work in your life, and you have been brought from death into life, and you understand that He has saved you from all of your sins, the ones that you have committed, you are committing, you will be committing. That doesn't mean you go out of your way to do more of them. Paul addresses that later on, but that you are saved, and period. We kind of get into that second part, and Jesus starts talking about, you should be willing to do these things. Like, if Jesus is willing to wash people's feet, which there are multiple reasons why this was absolutely disgusting. One, feet in general are just disgusting. Like, you're on them all the time. They get calloused, they get dirty. They wore sandals back then, so that was just a whole new level of nastiness. But it was also reserved for the lowest person in the house because it was so nasty. So you would have like the youngest child would do it, who was able to get up and work. If you were wealthy enough to have a servant, the lowest ranked servant would do this. And it isn't a position that anybody wants. Like, people weren't arguing to be like, I want to be the foot washer. Like, that's not the thing, okay? Like, it's not a thing. And we talk about like, oh, those who want to be first, they must want to be last. Jesus is saying you should really be willing to do the most demeaning of tasks. And if you're like, oh, well, I do, let me just challenge you on something. So everyone is aware, at once upon a time, several years ago, I was a church custodian. Okay? I was paid by a church to go in and clean up after events and on the daily. There would be people at the church who thought that they were cleaning, and there were also be people at the church who decided that that was my job and they weren't going to touch anything. If you say you are willing to clean up after an event, what you are saying is, I am prepared to clean the kitchen. I'm willing to take out all of the trash. I'm willing to take care of the chairs, and I'm willing to take care of the bathroom. I'm willing to restock the soap dispenser, to change out the toilet paper rolls, to scrub all the toilets, to wipe them down with the proper chemicals, which means you need to be wearing gloves and should probably have a mask on. That you are prepared to wipe all the windows down where little kids have been touching them, if there are children available, inside and out. You are vacuuming all of the rugs. You are making sure that all of the trash cans have been dumped, including the ones that are off in the corners that everybody forgets about until there's an event and they're dumping stuff in there. You're willing to clean all of the mirrors. You're wiping out all of the sinks. You're checking the trash cans in the women's restrooms that should be next to each of the stalls, because there's probably some stuff in there. You're going to make sure like all the diapers are taken out. You're going to make sure that everything gets locked up. And really, you should also be mopping and sweeping afterwards. It's a lot of work. If you are saying, I'm willing to do the most menial of tasks, like, those are the tasks that you need to be willing to do. You need to be willing to volunteer for this stuff that's going to be, quite honestly, like a huge pain to do. That's going to be time consuming. And honestly, that's disgusting because that's what Jesus did. He cleaned people's feet, and who knew what was on there? He could have gotten tetanus. You are going to say, like, I'm willing to do the most menial tasks that I am called to do. Then you need to actually be willing to do the most menial tasks and do a good job at them. But we need to be willing to learn and do the very best that we can, even when it's something that's not going to really get us noticed. We need to be willing to do the things that no one wants to do. We need to be willing to love each other so much that we are prepared to do the things that like no one's ever going to give us any credit for, and recognize that in doing so we are really we're presenting the gospel. Like, the cross was horrific. No one was going to volunteer for that. No sane person wants to go through that, but Jesus did. When everyone was turning their backs on him, Jesus still did it, and he did it for you. He did it for me. The pastor of the church where I attended, where I previously lived at, always says that the gospel is open to everyone and anyone can accept it. So there you go, Jason. I quoted you. Probably not 100% correctly, but I quoted you. So if you see this video, there you go. Just check it out if you're ever in Northeast Missouri, Cornerstone Baptist Church in Hannibal. Check them out. But great church family. They'll love on you. But that is what, oh, and I'm not sponsored by them. I have to make sure I legally say that. But that is a picture of the gospel. And this is what Jesus was teaching them here. He shows that both with Peter, that, yeah, like when someone is willing to do this for you, you need to be willing to accept it. And then he tells all of the disciples, yes, I'm willing to do this for you because this is what it means to love you. That I'm willing to do this thing that I'm not going to get any credit for. No one's going to give me accolades, but I'm going to do it. So that's a whole discussion that you can have in your small group if you're a small group leader. I also think it's something that if you're just an individual watching this, like, you should really stop and think about it. Like, why do I participate in the things that I participate in at church? And am I participating in things that are front facing, or am I participating in things that are more behind the scenes? And why am I doing either of them? I mean, there's always going to be people, they're going to be more of like the front facing people, you know, like your praise team or choir members, you know, your Sunday school teachers, your deacons, your elders, there's always going to be people who are called to be doing that. But I think you really need to consider and assess why you either want to do that or why you are doing it. And also assess, why aren't you doing something that might be, you know, backstage or behind the general public's knowledge of it? So that's kind of what I got for John chapter 13. I hope you enjoyed this. If you did, make sure that you like and subscribe. That really helps out my channel. I'm hoping that as I start to grow, it's been really slow going, but if I do start to grow, eventually I want to be able to invest in something besides my cell phone to film this. As we continue to grow, please like, subscribe, share, and invite your friends to follow, because I really want to get the conversation going. And I've got some fun things that I'm going to be like filming and talking about just outside of my Bible studies. So my move and my transition to this new job that I have kind of derailed my initial plans. So now that I'm in a different area, I have access to a whole lot of different things that previously were actually like legitimate, like I kind of had to haul. It was a bit of a haul and a drive for me to get to some of these things. So now I am much closer to several things that I've been wanting to do. And so I'm planning on bringing you all along with them. So that's just a little update, but I hope that you enjoyed this, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.